Hello everyone, this is David Firestein from BillRun and welcome to the BillRun Cloud live webinar. Thank you very much everyone for joining. Just a little bit of a briefing regarding the GoToMeeting platform. If you have any questions during this session, which will be a technical session mostly, you can just write the chat below your GoToMeeting so we can refer it after the technical demonstration when we will do the Q&A. So with me, I have Shani Dalal, who is the CTO and one of the co-founders as well, who will demonstrate the technical side of BillRun and how the billing cycle works using our BillRun Cloud solution. So just a little bit about what is BillRun and where we started. So BillRun Technology is established in 2012 with a mission to provide the market with the best open source solutions developed with the latest and greatest tools for big data. Our basic approach is to develop open and simple and effective billing solutions. We currently have 15 people developing and supporting existing customers, with also implementing new billing platforms within startup organizations and small businesses around the world who need a billing solution for their current billing requirements. Currently, BillRun is planning to expand in the next few months with a lot of clients going on board with us. And BillRun Technologies basically started as a project-oriented company and basically switched to a product-based company. Our current product portfolios include the telecom, the IoT, the utilities, and transport billing solutions, which is Quad and XPlay as well. We do prefer the cloud-based solution, but we also have on-premises solution for enterprise clients with over 2 million subscribers. We have also the NPG, which is the Telecom Number Portability Gateway, and also the Telecom Revenue Assurance and Fraud Detection Model. Our CRM also, and the inventory management and provisioning, which is all based on open source tools. In this technical demonstration, Shani, our CTO and co-founder, will demonstrate the BillRun Cloud solution, and we can start basically with the demonstration itself. And just a reminder, if you have any questions, you can just chat them on the chat of GoToMeeting, and we will have time at the end of the demonstration to answer all of your questions. And of course, we will send a summarize of all the questions for you as a reference after this live demonstration. So, Shani, you can start the demonstration.
To everyone. So first, before we start, it's a good idea to go over the BillRun entities. So we will have a little bit of background. We will start with the first entity, which is the product. So what is a product in BillRun? So a product is anything that can be offered to a market and is usage-based. I suggest that we see this in the system. So why don't we go to the system, to products? I have already some predefined products, but let's create a new one. First, I choose an effective date for my product. Let's say that it's November 1st. And we will call it just national calls, because I want this product to have the tariffs for national calls that my subscribers perform calls nationally. Okay, so a key is just a technical value. Let's call it the same, national calls. The unit type can be all the activity types that are possible to be measured. So I already have one defined, which is a call. You can add also other unit types as needed. For example, other activity types can be SMS or data. After you choose the activity type, you have also to choose the property type. It tells the system what does this activity type measure, whether it is time or data or length or even weight. So let's continue with the existing one, which is call activity type. Here I choose that this product is measured by seconds, and here it's the how I define the pricing for this product. So we have tiered pricing and volume pricing. We'll go currently with the default, which is tiered. You can see that I have 4 fields: from, to, interval, and the price. What happens if I choose an interval of 1 and a price of 1? It means that I measure calls, the national calls, by an interval of 1 second, and I price it by $1 for each second. So it means that any call that my subscribers will do, for example, if a customer made a call that is 10 seconds long, he will be charged by $10. If I change it, for example, to 60 seconds, it means that for every 1 minute, you are charged for $1. Even if the length of the call was less than 60 seconds, you are still charged with $1 per second, per minute. And here you can also we can also define further levels. For example, if I want only the first minute to cost $1 and the rest of the minutes I want to price them by 50 cents, this is the way to do it. I just entered another level. Below you can see that I choose that this product is taxable. So when we will generate an invoice, a tax will be added. We will see that. Other things that we can add to the product is a customized parameter. I already defined in advance the prefix parameter. So it means that I can identify national calls by a prefix of the number that was called. Let's say that the prefix here is 972. Okay, and now we will save the product. We can see that it's created with the already defined 2 products. Okay, so let's move on to the next entity. Next one is service. What is a service in BillRun? A service is anything that can be offered to a market and is subscriber based. It means that it's based on the property of the subscriber or the account. So let's see the service entity in BillRun. So I go to the menu, postpaid services. I'll create a new one. And let's call this service call service. Again, here it's just a technical name. And here we define a price for this service. Let's say that it costs $20. Once a subscriber is registered to it, he will receive it for an infinite number of billing cycles, as denoted here. We can also define that a subscriber can subscribe to the service for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, or a couple of months, however we choose to define it. Let's go with the default approach, which is unlimited number of billing cycles. Or another thing, we can also say that once you subscribe to it, you will get this service for 3 billing cycles, since the day you registered, of course. Here it's prorated, in case you want the service to be prorated, or quantitative, in case you want the subscriber to be able to subscribe to more than one quantity. Okay, service includes. What is service includes? You can think of it as a sale. Let's call it call group. I choose this group as a usage-based one. I choose the activity type that is relevant for this group, call. And let's choose minutes. Okay, and here I type 100, click next, and the products. Let's choose only national calls and edit. So what did I just do? Any subscriber that will subscribe to this service will enjoy in any billing cycle the first 100 minutes of national calls will be free of charge. So this is a nice way to give sales to your subscribers, or you can think of it like as a sort of a discount or a package. Let's say that this service is available only since December 1st. Okay, and save. You can see that the service is created with all the parameters that we entered. Okay, let's move on to the next entity. The next entity is plan. So what is a plan? A plan is a set of products and services that define specific tariffs and terms. Let's see how does it look like in BillRun. So I enter plans. I already have a basic plan which I created earlier. Let's create a new one. Let's call it National Calls Plan. Again, a technical name. Choose here the billing frequency, whether it is monthly or yearly. The charging mode, whether it is upfront or arrears. Let's choose arrears. Whether the plan is prorated or not. Trial period, yes or no. You can have a separate price for the first, let's say, 3 billing cycles, or just the same price for this plan for all the billing cycles. Okay, some other things that we can do in a plan. We can override the price of some product. For example, if I have calls to England product and I want subscribers under this plan to have a different charge for this for calls to England, this is the place to do it. And I have, for example, included services. It means all the services which are included in this plan once you subscribe to it. So I can say that any subscriber registered to this national calls plan will also enjoy this service that we just created, the call service. And let's set an effective date. Let's say that this plan is available since December 1st. Okay, and we save the plan. Let's move on to the next entity. So the next two entities are customers and subscribers. What is a customer? A customer is the account level in BillRun which aggregates subscribers. For each account in BillRun, for each customer, an invoice will be generated. Let's see how does it look like. So we go to customers on the menu. I already have a predefined one. Let's create a new one. So you can see we have some mandatory fields. And the last one here is actually a custom field that I created in advance. I will show later how to do that. First name. So I will just create an account or customer. address. This is an optional field. This one is a mandatory field. Okay, so you can see that the customer was just created with all the details that we entered. Okay, the next entity is subscriber. A subscriber, as I said, belongs to a customer. It has exactly one plan. Let's see how to create a subscriber. Okay, so we are in this account or customer that we just created. I click subscribers. You can see that currently I have no subscribers under this account. Let's create a new one. This is the registration date. So let's say that the subscriber joined yesterday and he joined to the national calls plan. Included services, you can see he has the call service service that we just created because he joined the national calls plan, which includes this service by default. First name, so we'll just create some values. And save. Okay, so this is the customer with all the subscribers. Currently, we have one subscriber. Okay, so let's see. Let's move on to the next entity. Okay, so custom fields. As I said, we can add custom fields to the customer or to the subscriber. Let's see where we can do this in the system. So we go to settings, custom fields. You can see that the custom fields apply not only to customer and subscriber, but also to product and service. Here is the custom field that I already created for customer, external ID. I set it as a unique field, which means that any customer created must have this field. And of course, it's a mandatory field. The same for subscriber. I created two custom fields. One of them is a telephone number. This is not a unique field. We can make it unique. The other one is just an external identification. In case, for example, if you have a legacy system and you wish to migrate your customers and subscribers to BillRun, it's a good idea to start by defining a custom field, which is of a unique type. Let's see how to import your existing customers to BillRun. So we go to customers, click the import. I already created a CSV file containing my customers and subscribers. Let's see how this file looks like. Okay, so we have this account CSV file. It has a couple of columns. Account ID, this is my legacy ID. First name, last name, and some other fields. Okay, let's choose this file in BillRun. First, let's say that we want to import customers now. The delimiter is comma. I choose the accounts file, click next. Choose the external ID field from the file. In this case, it's account ID. And fill in all the mandatory fields in BillRun, like first and last name. So let's choose them. Choose the email. Country, which is, I see, mandatory. So let's just enter city here. Street, zip code. Okay, and click next. This is a sample record. It shows us how it will be imported. so we can see all our values. Let's confirm. So 2 records were successfully imported. We can see the 2 customers were imported. And now let's enter one of them. We can see that this customer currently has no subscribers. Let's import some subscribers. So for this, I have the subscriber CSV. For each customer, I have 2 subscribers. Let's import these 2. So we choose to import subscribers. We choose the file subscriber CSV. The external identification, it's subscriber ID. And map all the fields of subscriber. First name, last name. If I have also a field for the plan, so I can choose it here. Okay, I think in this file we don't have the plan, so you will have to enter the subscriber plan just as another field, and afterwards you can just select the plan field in this drop-down and fill all the other mappings. Once you finish, you will have all the subscribers connected to the customers in BillRun. Okay, so this is the way to import your legacy customers and subscribers to BillRun. Let's move on to the next entity. Next one is discounts. Discounts is the engine that deducts the price of a planned service and/or invoice when one or more conditions meet. Let's see discounts menu in BillRun to better understand it. So we go to postpaid discounts, create a new one. This is the title that will be shown on the invoice. So let's call it discount 1. Technical name, discount 1. It's a monetary discount. We can have it also, we can set it also to be a percentage discount. It's valid for an infinite number of cycles since the subscription date. And here we define the discount conditions. So I can say that, for example, subscribers with a national calls plan having a call service combination will be eligible for this discount. And what they will be eligible for, you define it here. For example, you can say deduct, reduce, for example, $2 from the charge of the national calls plan. Or you can also say, for example, of the overall charge of the invoice, reduce $30. We can also set it to a percentage discounts. And then we can say refund him 100% of the price of the plan. This is also an option. Here we define an effective date for the discount since when it will be eligible. So we choose December 1st. Okay, so this is about the discounts and engine. Next entity is the input processor. That's a really important part of the system. The input processor is a mediation manager and actually the engine which handles the input to the billing system. So let's see how to tell the system what do the inputs, what do our inputs look like. So we go to settings, input processors. You can see I already have an input processor defined. Let's create a new one. We can say that it's an API based, which means that you can send your events in real time. Or you can say that it's a file-based. We have already a predefined template like asterisk, UK standard, free switch, Cisco. In this case, we will choose to configure a custom one. Let's call it input processor 2. And I already have a file that I created in advance. I call it CDR CSV. You can see that it's a comma delimited file. Okay, so let's say that it's delimited by comma. By the way, you can choose another delimiter, just type it. You can also denote that your file is a fixed width CSV. We also support that. My file has a header row, so I mark it, and I choose the file, CDRs. You see that the system parsed the header row with all the column names. So I have here the 4 columns for my file. It's a minimum requirement of fields, 4 fields, one for the date of the CDR, for the date of the event. Second field for the volume of the CDR. For example, for calls, it's how many seconds the call lasted. Third field for subscriber identification, so you can know which of your subscribers did this usage, so you can map it to the subscriber entity in BillRun. And the fourth column, in our case, it's the call number, so we can match a correct product. If you call to the United States or if you call to England, so we will see how to map it to the correct product. Click Next. Here I define, I tell the system how to, from which field to parse the date. So in our CDR, this column is just CDR date. I don't have to choose any of these checkboxes. The system will automatically know how to convert this date correctly. In case your CDR time is separated to another field, there is an opportunity to tell the system how to parse it correctly. Or in case you want to enter a custom format, a custom date format. For example, in case you are working in the US mode, where the month precedes the day, so you can tell it like that to the system. But in our case, it's unnecessary. In here, we define the usage types relevant to this file. So my file contains only calls. So this is why I chose static. In case you have multiple activity types combined, you choose the dynamic option. So our static usage type is just call. The volume appears in seconds in the file. If it appears in minutes, you can also choose it. And the volume appears in the volume field. So BillRun will know to go to this field volume, and it will look for the number of seconds that the call lasted. Click Next. In this stage, we map the correct subscriber for each activity type that we defined. We can see that we have only one activity type under this input processor, which is call. Let's add a new rule. So I say that my subscriber identification appears in subfield, and it's mapped to, let's say, some external identification in BillRun. So it means that any value in the sub field in my CDR has to correspond to a subscriber with the same value under the external identification field. Once we have an exact match, the subscriber will be matched to this CDR. In case you need to perform further manipulations on the value in subfield, you can do this by a regular expression. In our case, we don't need it. Click Next. Okay, in this stage, we define the product mapping for each activity type in the input processor. In our case, call activity type. Let's add a new priority. So in our case, we have the called number, which is where the subscriber called, and we want to map it to the correct product. Remember, we have three products actually. Let's just remember them. So one of them was called to England, the other one calls to USA, the third one national calls. So we want to map each one of them to a CDR. So for example, when you called to the United States, the call number should start with 1. So we need the longest prefix approach. We need to look only on this prefix of the number, which is 1, and compare it to the product parameter, which is prefix. So each time we receive a CDR, we perform the longest prefix approach in order to find the correct product by the prefix. In case you have another rule by which you want to map a product, you can add it here, and all the products that didn't, for which a product wasn't found in this stage, the system will try with another rule. But in our case, we don't need it, so let's go on with this one approach, only approach, which is by call number, compare it by a longest prefix to the product prefix parameter. And click Next. The pre-pricing stage, in case the CDR contains the price already, you can just tell BillRun to take the price from there and not to calculate it by itself. In our case, we do want the price to be calculated by the product. Okay. Last step is the FTP receiver or SFTP receiver. In case you are working with FTP, so this is the place to define it. Let's call it just with a name. Choose a host, the FTP host, user, some password, directory where the files are, some regular expression in case you want to filter only the files matching to a regular expression. The period, it means how often should BillRun look for new files in this FTP directory. Delete on retrieve, it's whether we want BillRun to delete files from the remote once they have been received, and the passive mode in case your FTP works only in passive mode. Okay, and let's click Finish. Now you can see that we created a new input processor. We called it input processor 2. We can disable it and enable it, of course, edit or remove it. And BillRun will check periodically for new files and will process CDRs inside them according to the rules that we just defined. Okay, so this is the input processors. Let's move on to the next entity or the next screen, which is the billing cycle screen. So this is actually the monthly billing cycle, the place to perform the monthly billing cycle, where we aggregate all the account usage and generate invoices. Let's go to the billing cycle screen. Okay. So I have 2 billing cycles ready to be executed. So let's choose the cycle of November. it will include all the usage that was received during November. And of course, we'll calculate all the subscription prices, all the plans of the subscribers in your system. Let's click run. You can see that the cycle was started successfully. We already have an invoice that was created here. While it's running, let's see some settings, some interesting settings that relate to the invoice. So here you can see just the general settings. Local, it's the time zone where we wish to work. CDRs will be processed according to this time zone. Currency, it will be displayed in the invoice. Tax, in our case, we chose VAT. The VAT is defined to be 17%. Some invoicing settings like charging day, it means that your billing cycles start on the first day of each month. Detailed invoices, whether I want usage to be present in the invoice. Okay, let's move back to billing cycle screen. Okay, so it's still running. Let's see, but you can see that it's already running, but we have the option to download an invoice already. Okay, so this is a sample invoice that was created. The period, you can see it's since the first day of November to the last day, 30. We have the invoice number, the print date, the customer of this invoice is account number, customer number, the address, his email, the invoice summary. You can see that this plan cost is $10. We already have a usage that I already entered to the system by the input processor that we saw. So he was charged for 12 cents of extra usage. In this section, you can see manual charges or refunds that did not apply for this. You can see that it's zero. It's filled with zero. So this customer didn't have any manual charges or refunds this month. The subtotal of the invoice, the sum of taxes, in our case only VAT, and the grand total of the invoice. Okay, below you can see subscription summary. So in our case, we have only one subscription. So it will be just equal to the invoice total. And here we can see that he was charged for a basic plan with a $10 charge. Okay, so this was a sample for an invoice. And basically, this is how you manage your billing cycle. You can charge your customers after it. We won't show it in this demo. You can also, you first have to confirm invoices, and then you will be able to charge your customers depending on the payment gateways that you define. So basically, that's it. David, back to you.
Thank you very much, Annie. So yes, basically this was a demonstration of how the billing cycle works from A to Z, from starting the product, the initial product, and building up towards the billing cycle itself. And this process could be also implemented not only in the telecommunication organizations, but also with IoT and basically everything that is usage based. If it's utilities such as electricity or water, or even transportation and insurance by day. So if you have any questions regarding this demonstration that we currently had, you can just write them on the chat of the GoToMeeting, which should be on your left or on your bottom. And if there's no questions, then I'll share my email address. If you have any questions that you that have and did not ask in this webinar, or if you would like to have a private demonstration on specific criteria that you currently need for your billing requirements, then you can just share with me by email, and we can have a discussion. Okay, so we'll just take a few moments just to gather the questions. There's not a lot, but we'll just give us one moment and we'll have the questions ready. And I have shared my email address if you would like to send me an email with any specific questions regarding your requirements.
Okay, so we have one question, which is what to do if I already run the billing cycle and afterwards I found out that I made a mistake and I need to somehow fix it. So let's see how to do that. Okay, let's see first of all if this has ended. Yes, so we can see that the billing cycle has ended. And let's say that we did a mistake with the charge of the plan of this subscriber. It shouldn't cost $10 a month. It should cost, let's say, $8 a month. So let's see how to fix it. So before that, maybe it's good to tell it's possible only before you confirm the invoice. So unless you are sure that the invoice total is 100% okay, as long as you're not sure, so don't click the confirm button. So let's see how to fix plans price. We'll go to postpaid plans. We go to the relevant plan, which is basic plan, and change it to $8 instead of 10 and save. Okay, let's go back. This is the relevant billing cycle with one invoice. We can reset the billing cycle, but in this case, it will be just easier to perform a rerun. And because this invoice is not confirmed, it will be regenerated. The cycle was restarted successfully, and we can see that the invoice total just decreased. So this is how to fix an invoice after you perform a billing cycle. Okay, let's see if we have other questions.
Okay, so we do have a question here regarding when the subscriber or the product and the CDR records are unknown, is there a possibility to see the CDR records failing to process, and are they imported so they can be processed when the subscriber or product is configured? So the answer is yes, and Shani will be happily demonstrating this right now.
Okay, so the way to see whether CDR hasn't processed well is to go to the report screen. We'll create a new report. Okay. Let's create a queue report. We have to choose the queue entity. The queue is actually where all the misconfigured or CDRs that didn't receive any subscriber was not identified, or a product was not matched. These are mainly the reasons why a CDR won't have a charge on it. We can have a simple report which will just show us a subset of this collection of these records, or we can also perform a statistical report. For this one, we will go just with a simple approach. You choose the column names for which you want to display. This is actually fields from the CDR. The conditions. So in our case, we want the calculator name. So it means when did this CDR stopped, at which stage it stopped and entered the queue. So we have many operators to choose from. We will choose equals, and here we have the customer or weight or pricing. So if I want to see all the CDRs that for which a subscriber hasn't been found, so you just choose calculator name equals customer and preview. In our case, we don't have any CDR that is in the queue, so we will not see any records. But yeah, this is the way to do it. If I remove all the conditions, I will just see all the lines, all the CDRs that are in the queue. But again, in our case, all the CDRs have been processed successfully and the queue is empty.
Okay, so I think there are no more questions. So if you do have any questions, I have shared my email with you, and also I'll be sending you an email with additional information, and also who would wish to have an opportunity to evaluate the solution itself and play around a little bit. So you will have a free registration for this kind of tenants, and you can also ask any questions if not answered in this session. We will have in the near future some more specific webinars for prepaid solution and also IoT solution and other advanced features and capabilities which are more technically. So I do want to thank Shani, our CTO, one of our co-founders, and you guys for attending this session.